Hi, everyone. Welcome to CSM 61A, week 2, question 3, power of 2. So what we want to do in this power of 2 question is print out all the positive integer powers of 2 that are less than or equal to the number n that's passed into our function. And finally, we should return none. So to get a better understanding of what our function should do, let's start by looking at these doc tests. So let's look at this first case in which we call power of 2 on n equals 6. From here, we'll print out 1, then 2, then 4, and then the next power of 2 would be 8, but since that is greater than 6, we will not print it out. Likewise, when we call results on power of 2 16, we'll get 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16, and then we'll stop because up to that point, we've printed out every power of 2 that is less than or equal to 16. So what do we notice in both of these dot tests? Well, we can see that we are always starting with 1. And not only do we start with 1, but for every question, we'll always start with the same pattern. We'll always go 1, 2, 4, and so on for as long as we can. So up until we've reached a certain limit, we'll always start off with this same pattern. So this tells us that we might need to use a while loop. And a good starting point for this while loop will be 1. Because, as we can see, we're going to start off every sequence with 1. So I can create a variable called cur for current, which keeps track of whatever our current variable is or where we currently are in the sequence. And we'll always start off at 1. Then we can enter our while loop. So the next step in this problem is to determine what the condition will be inside of this loop. So we know we want to keep multiplying by 2 until we have surpassed n. So while I is less than or equal to n, we will continue with this loop. Okay, so now what do we want to actually do inside of this loop? Well, as you can see from the problem statement, we want to print out all of these positive integer powers. So we can just print out cur. Then what we're left with is finding a way to increment cur. So how do we increment this variable? Well, we see that at each step, to go from 1 to 2, or 2 to 4, or 4 to 8, we complete the same operation, which is just multiplication by 2, right? Since to go from 1 to 2, we just multiply by 2. And to go from 2 to 4, we multiply by 2, and so on and so forth. So that means at each step, when we're incrementing cur, we will just multiply it by 2. And this will give us our correct sequence. Because, again, we'll start from 1, and while I is less than or equal to n, we will just be multiplying by 2. So this way we can get every positive integer that is a power of 2 until we've surpassed n. Finally, we need to take into account the return case. So up here, it tells us that this function should return none. And this means that we've already taken care of the return statement, because if we just don't include a return statement in this function, then we will automatically return none. So yeah, that is it for week 2, question 3, power of 2.